Hi, everybody. This is Jason Mefford. Hey, I wanted to go over probably one of the most common questions that I get when people are studying for the Certified Internal Auditor exams. And that is, which of the study materials are the best? Which one should I use? And that's not necessarily an easy answer because it depends. It depends on a lot of different things. And so I wanted to go through in this video and give you some questions to ask yourself. Because what I find is often people jump into and invest in something very quickly without actually thinking about it. And then they come to find that the materials they're trying to use are confusing. They're not really helping them pass. So let me go through and talk about a couple things. I'm going to refer down to my notes here because there's a few questions that I want to make sure that you're asking. Now, the first one is, what do you get from your investment? And so again, when you look at the different review courses that are out there, you want to take a look at what are you actually getting. So are you getting the materials, just the materials? Are you getting practice questions? Are you getting question and answer support from the instructor? Is this completely off on your own self-study? You're completely alone and on your own? And does it have other components to it, like videos that go along with the particular materials? So the first question that you really have to ask yourself is, what am I actually getting for this investment? Don't just look at the numbers and think, oh, this set of materials is cheaper than this other one by a few $100s, so I'm going to use that. The reality is you get what you pay for. So if you choose the cheapest option, you're probably going to get the cheapest and crappiest product as well. Okay, that's again just kind of laying it out there and being honest with you. The second question that you should be asking yourself is, what is your learning style? And so again, there's really kind of three main learning styles: auditory, kinesthetic, and visual. So depending on the type of learner that you are, if you're visual, then reading is a visual activity. It is a good option for you. But you want to be careful, because if you're only reading materials, that only has about a 10% retention rate, which means that as you're reading it, you're only using one sense. And as a result, you often find that reading materials is confusing and boring and hard to actually do. So really the point is, the more senses that you have engaged in your studying, the easier it's going to be, the more you're going to remember, and the quicker you're going to learn. So as an example, some of the stuff that I do with multisensory learning that I built into my course, it moves you from 10% to 70% retention. And how does it do that? Because it's activating multiple senses. You're seeing it, you're saying it, you're hearing it, you're writing it, you're repeating it, you're going over, and it moves you from that 10% to 70% retention rate. So again, think about what's your learning style. If you're auditory and you just buy a book and try to read it, not going to be very effective. If you're kinesthetic and you try to sit down and just read a book, it's not going to be very effective. And as I said, even if you're a visual learner, that's the lowest retention rate for learning, is just reading silently to yourself. So another thing to consider. That's question number 2. Now, question number 3, how long do you have access to the material? Because again, everybody is different. Some people, you have a year or 2 years access to it, and that's it, maybe 3 years. Other courses, you actually have lifetime access, or it does not expire. So that's one of the things that you want to take into consideration when you're looking at some sort of a review course. How long do you actually have access to it? Is this going to be something that's going to help you along your whole journey? Or is this something that you only have access to for 1 or 2 years? The fourth question, how much time do you want to take in preparing? Now, this gets back to a little bit of what we talked about before, but the less time you have to study, it's probably going to mean you're going to need a more expensive or a larger investment option. Because if you need to learn that information quicker, like going to an in-person class, or doing something like that that's much more hands-on, much more intensive, if you have not very much time to do that, then those options are probably going to be better than just trying to read a book by yourself. A lot of people that just try to self-study and read, it takes them 3 or 4 or 5 years to try to get through all of the material. That's a long time. So if you want to accelerate that and do that in something that is much less time, then there's other options that you're going to need to invest in that are probably a little bit more expensive than the other ones, but it gets you through the material quicker. And does this actually work? Yes, it does. I mean, in fact, when I went through, I did all 3 parts myself in probably 4 months. And I've had several people go through my course in 6 months and pass all 3 parts of the exam. So you can actually accelerate and go through the material quicker. But again, you need to decide, how long do you want to take? If you don't care and 3 or 4 years is fine for you, you want to study for 3 or 4 years, then buying the cheapest option and doing something like that is probably okay. But if you want to get it down to where you're passing the exams within maybe 6 to 18 months, you're going to need to invest in something that is more than just materials you're reading. That's why getting things that have videos, question and answer type of things, being able to directly interact with the instructor, those are things that are going to help you in getting through it quicker, as well as some of the mindset things. Now, I talk about mindset a lot because most other people don't. And in fact, the CIA exams are as much mental as they are academic. And so if you do not have confidence in your test taking ability, if you do not have confidence that you have learned the material, it's going to be very difficult to pass. And in fact, if you have not passed the exam, you may have already started programming your brain to believe that you will not pass the next time. And this is a very, very dangerous part to get into, but I've seen it a lot of times. Somebody after failing the exam 3 or 4 times will actually reach out to me. And what I see is when we go back and look at their scores, they scored almost identical on all 4 of those parts. That doesn't have anything to do with the studying. That has to do with a mindset issue that you actually have to work through and be able to build your confidence back up. So does the review course that you're going through, does that include that sort of support as well? Because again, if not, and that's what you need to work on, you may need to invest in an option that does allow you to be able to do that and have the support along your whole journey to be able to get you certified. Now, the last question to ask is, how much are you willing to invest? And in this question, I'm not talking about how much does it cost for the review course, but how much are you actually willing to invest in yourself? Because as I said, I have a lot of people that come to me and reach out to me for help after they haven't passed the exam 2 or 3 times. And they're very frustrated. They don't really know what to do. And if you have taken the exam multiple times, using a cheaper investment. So let's take, for example, somebody who decides, I'm just going to buy a cheaper book. So maybe it's $800, $1,000, something like that for the books for all 3 of the exams. But every time you take an exam, it costs you an additional $2,000 to $3,000 in time and effort. So yes, you're not buying new materials, but you're wasting a bunch of time away from your family, away from work, away from doing things that you would like to do that are more fun than studying for the CIA exam. You're wasting $2,000 to $3,000 each time you take that. So let me give you an example. Somebody buys a book. It's $500 to $1,000. They fail 3 times. 3 times 3,000 is $9,000 plus the 1,000 that they invested. They've just wasted $10,000 because they chose to get a cheaper option that did not do what they needed them to do to begin with. That's a reality, my friends, and I hate seeing people go through that. But I hear from people almost every week that have gone through that experience, and I don't want you to go through that same thing. So, how much are you willing to invest? Is it worth it to you to invest $2,000 or $3,000 up front to avoid having a $10,000 or $15,000 or $20,000 investment in time and money later? That's a decision you have to make. And again, if you want to go with a cheaper option, eventually you're probably going to pay for it in the end. Or if you're willing to invest in something up front that is actually going to help you learn quicker, help you retain and remember the information better, and help you have the confidence to pass the exam, that's a great investment. So anyway, that's some of my thoughts on this, because like I said, I know a lot of times people are asking me this. So again, as a reminder, the questions to ask yourself: what do you get for your investment? What is your learning style, and what kind of program would work best with that? How long do you have to access the course? How much time do you want to take preparing? And then how much are you willing to invest? Now, since this is a public forum, I didn't get into talking about any of the individual programs themselves, but if you'd like to contact me directly, you can do that, and I'll actually share with you privately my feelings about the different programs. But here's what I can tell you. I've had people come to me after not passing several times using all of the different materials. So there are some things about each one of them, but I can try to help you in understanding and answering some of these questions if you're having difficulty with that, to help put you on the right path for something that would work best for you. Because ultimately, which CIA review course is best for you is the answer to, which one is the best one. It's the one that's going to work the best for you. So if you have any questions or want to, kind of walk through that with me, just reach out to me on LinkedIn, send me an email. I'm easy to find and happy to have a conversation with you. Because ultimately, my goal is to help you pass the CIA exam as soon as possible so that you can get certified and move on with your life instead of having to spend all of your extra time studying. Take care.